I am really pumped up to be able to share this episode with you today because I've just finished recording the interview with Craig Ballantyne and I'm out on my morning walk now, and I wanted to fast track this to get out to you because Craig has been someone that has massively, positively influenced me to where I am today and how I function. And what we delve into in today's episode is, how do you have the perfect day formula? And really, how do you know what it is that you really want in life, in success, in business, in all of these things? And then how do you break that down into knowing what it is that you need to do on a day-to-day basis? Because sure, we can all be very easily overwhelmed and confused in what we need to be able to do, but really getting to the answer of what is it that really matters for you to be able to get the results that you want, this is what today's episode is all about. Also, I'm going to pop a link below for Craig running his Perfect Day workshops. I highly recommend that you get amongst this. Make sure you learn about what they are in, because this is one of the best shortcuts that you can take when it comes to you building the business that you want, building the life that you want, and just being able to have the impact that you want by doing more in less. Because I know that sounds crazy, but you can get so much more done in less time and to be able to enjoy the process as well. So I'm going to get you started into this interview right now. Any questions, make sure that you comment below. Get a part of what Craig is doing because I highly recommend it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Craig Ballantyne, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I'm always pumped to be talking to you because, as I'm sure we're going to dive into, you've had a massive positive influence onto myself. So I'm always very grateful and thankful, but also for myself and the listener right now. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love talking to you. You're a really, really great interviewer and, very cool, and you got that great accent, so we're going to rock and roll.
Okay, excellent. So let's jump into the awesomeness that is Craig Ballantyne right now, just in case the listener doesn't know, which I would be horrified if they don't, but we'll clear that problem up. So who's Craig? Why is he so phenomenal?
So I started online in the fitness world in 1999, and get this, Chris, I was sending out an email newsletter to 3,000 people, and it was through Hotmail, and you could only send it out to 50 people at a time. And so it took me, I had to send out 60 emails to send a newsletter at one point. It's ridiculous.
Just copying and pasting names?
Yeah, copy and paste. Like I had blocks of 50 people, and I had to manually update it. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing in 1999 through 2001. And then 2000, I had my big break. I started writing for Men's Health magazine. And then in 2001, I started selling the world famous turbulence training. And so it's going on over 15 years now since that program has been out. Awesome. Originally started selling it for $9.95 as a Word document. Believe it or not, there was no pictures in it. But the next month there was pictures in it. And the month after that, there was more workouts. And eventually it made its way up to like $40, and then we made a version with follow along videos, and so all that great stuff kept me going until about 2011, and then I bought this business called Early to Rise, which is a personal development, health, wealth, and success newsletter. Helps people make more money, get a raise, build their online business, build their real world business, invest in real estate, all this great stuff. And then I wrote my book, The Perfect Day Formula, in 2015. And that's what I've been on for the last couple of years. And I started doing these perfect life workshops, which are really, really awesome. They're my life's work. And so I'm really excited to take this to the world. That's my next evolution.
Okay, I absolutely love this. Now, I'd love to jump into, because I've heard before the story behind you actually buying Early to Rise, and how this was something that you were like, I want to do this. How long before was it that you said, I don't want to absolutely crap the story right now, but you said to your business coach at the time, I want to buy something like Early to Rise, and then you actually bought it down the track. I'd love to flesh that out.
Well, I'd love to tell the story, but you already told it, so I don't even know if it's maybe I'll be able to tell it with a few more details.
Yes,
so,
please.
Not in such a great accent. So it was 2006 that I hired my business coach. So that was a real pivotal year for me. I had my first business coach, and then I also had my anxiety attacks that I talk about in the book. And so 2006, I hired a guy named Tom Venuto, and I'm sure everybody listening has heard of Tom. He sold Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle, still does. He's an amazing guy. I was his first coaching client, and I was also his last coaching client, so I don't know what that means exactly. Maybe he was like, I can't have any better students than this ever, so I will never coach another person. But the very first question he asked me on the very first call was, what do you want your business to look like in 5 years from now? And I said to him, Tom, I love this business called Early to Rise. This newsletter, it's amazing. And he was familiar with it. And I mean, at one point it had like 400,000 subscribers. It was massive. And so that's all I said. I just said, I want to have a business like Early to Rise in 5 years. And so then, he went on and helped me launch turbulence training again to the world. And then we went from there. I joined Yannick Silver's mastermind group for online businesses. And then I started my own mastermind group in 2008, helping online trainers. And then I started writing a lot more. I started writing for more magazines, and I started doing video, and I started coaching people, and I started doing all of the things that would get me towards having a business like Early to Rise. And then 2010, I was on a trip with Yannick Silver and Tim Ferriss, and we were out in the desert. We were shooting guns and driving cars, and yes, at the same time in some cases. And so it was really, really fantastic. It was one of Yannick's adrenaline trips. James, I don't know if James Shramko was on that one, but he's been on some of the ones I think that I've gone on. And so, we had a good time. And then on the way back, I was with my friend Matt Smith, and Matt, asked me a very similar question to what Tom asked me years before that, which was, what, you got this fitness business, what do you want to do next? And I told him I love Early to Rise. And so I started a website called Internet Independence, which I helped people grow their online businesses. And then 6 months after I told that to Matt, he was at a seminar with Mark Ford, the owner of Early to Rise, and Mark said, I'm ready to sell the business. And so me and Matt flew down to Florida, negotiated a deal, and it was 5 years, 3 months, and 17 days after I said that to Tom Venuto that I actually bought the business of my dreams. So it was an amazing, secret-like moment, but I don't say it was the law of attraction. It was the law of action attraction. Yeah. I had to go and do all that work. I had to go and tell people what I wanted. I had to go out there and network and get out of my introverted little comfort zone. I had to do all these things, but when I did, I was able to achieve exactly what I wanted in life because I had a very clear vision and I was always on point. And so when you know where you want to get to, I like to do this. When you know that destination that you want to get to, you have a straight line to success, and that is how you achieve exactly what you want in life.
Okay, I absolutely love this, and especially a perfect segue to go into the action attraction, into the action, and how does that action actually get performed on a day-to-day level. So just for the listener, because I remember when I was starting to consume your information, when I very first started with the online world, and it was me having to go from a personal trainer that was in the gym from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. And then I was like, okay, well, this is great because I can't do anything in between because this is all for my face-to-face business and running my trainers. So it had to be on the outside, and the outside would never be nighttime. I'm not a nighttime person at all. That's not when I operate well. So I had to do it in the morning. And I remember you saying, like, you would wake up 4:30 in the morning, start your work, and then you'd get on your bus, be doing work, getting to your training clients. And I was like, I'm going to have to do the exact same thing. And it was from biting that bullet and then actually being able to be so effective and efficient into getting so much done in such a small amount of time. And I think this has just grown into what you now have really perfected into what the perfect day formula is. So when it comes to the action and someone says, Craig, I want help to be able to get more done in less time, how do you help them go through that process?
It's a great question. And so you described exactly what I did, in 2003, it was up at 4:30 in the morning, which is actually late to me now, but it was up at 4:30 in the morning. I mean, I could have slept until 5:15 and, had a shower and ran after the bus. But, I wanted to get ahead. I wanted to get out of personal training and into the online stuff. So I was up at 4:30, 20 minutes of work on my business, and then, breakfast and shower and walk to the bus stop, and then 20-minute bus ride downtown Toronto. and go and train the clients. And, in between clients, I would work for 5 minutes, and then I would work, on the subway home, because I could take the subway home, but the subway didn't run at 5:30 in the morning. So I'd take the bus in the morning. And I mean, public bus, I mean, you can just imagine 5:30 in the morning characters that are on that thing. But I had some of my best ideas in the subway ride on the way home. I was like up like this, writing on my BlackBerry, writing articles, doing stuff for Men's Health, putting together programs that I would sell, and never wasting a minute. And there's a famous author in Canada named, she just won the Nobel Prize for Literature, short story woman, not Margaret Atwood, but somebody else. And she has this really great quote, which is where she worked in the slivers of time. And this was because she had several young children, and she was writing these short stories while the kids were asleep, or while the kids, were on the bus to school and before she had to go to work. The slivers of time are where people like you and like I become very successful compared to people who are just successful. And so it's really making the most of every minute. So what I do with entrepreneurs now is we deconstruct their vision all the way down to their perfect day in my workshops. And so we need to know exactly where they want to get to, that thing that I did before. And then once we know exactly where they need to get, exactly where you want to be in 3 years from now, what street you're living on, what house you own, your family life, what cars are in the garage, how much money you have in the bank. Then we go, okay, here's what you need to do to get there. And then we put together the blueprints for success. And then we break it down. Okay, if you need to do this in the next 30 days, here's what you need to do in the next 72 hours. Here's what you need to do in the next 24 hours. And here's exactly how your day needs to go based on a few things that I call like magic time, which is a time of day you're 3 times more productive than any other time of day. That's a real big key for success. And then identifying all the obstacles in your way and getting rid of those. And we just dial in someone's day so that they're so productive and so effective that they achieve their big goals and dreams, but they don't miss out on that family time. So, for example, Bedros Keuilian, who many people have heard of, I mean, the guy is running a fitness franchise with over 400 locations, and he's still home at 4 o'clock to play guitar with his son before dinner, have dinner with the family, and then play ping pong with his daughter after dinner, and still have hot tub time with his wife at night, and get to sleep and have a great night's sleep. It's all because he's been following my systems, because he and I have been business partners for 7 years now, and he's just, through osmosis, watched the discipline and structure I put into my days to put into his days, and allowed him to have these big breakthroughs. And so that's what I do. I take 7 years of hanging around me like Bedros had, and I distill it into one day, or in the workshops, or I distill it down into the perfect day formula kit that people can get. And it's all of my information, it's all of my systems to make them incredibly high performers and achieve extraordinary results in every area of their life. And it all starts with the vision and works back down to the day.
I love how you reverse engineer everything, because it just makes so much sense. It's so logical. It's just like, why wouldn't have I thought that before? But it wasn't until you actually step it out that it's really like, okay, there's such a small amount of work that you put up front to then decide, where am I going, what has to be happening, and then chunking it back down to then the beauty of having okay, this is what my day looks like. What are the biggest objections, though, that you're finding maybe when people first walk into these seminars with you, Craig, that they're maybe a little bit hesitant or just not too sure on how to execute this?
Most people suffer from having too much opportunity. There's too many things. Like I can do Facebook Lives, I can do webinars, I can do summits, I can do YouTube videos, I can, do Facebook advertising, I can do all of these things. I don't know where to start. I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy with opportunity. And it's a good thing in a way. I mean, it's great to be overwhelmed by opportunity, but we just do this deep dive into self-discovery, and I ask the right questions that they've never been asked before. I basically go Dr. Phil on them for about 8 hours, and we end up identifying what they're really good at, their valuable skills, their zone of genius, and then we start protecting that. And we also bring up opportunities that they totally neglected, totally forgot about. And I also show them like the key leverage points in their business. Like, yeah, you can go and do that busy work, but that's not big picture thinking. And so most people also don't think big enough and clear enough into the future. And so that's the whole key to the visioning. Most people just they're too busy to really think it out. It's classic from Stephen Covey, the 4 quadrants. You have urgent, non-important, which is where most people spend their lives, and then important, not urgent, which is where most people should spend their lives. And then you have the, not important and urgent, and not important, not urgent, where people also waste a lot of time. And so it's really getting them to spend time, get away from their regular workspace and spend time in that important, not urgent area, which allows them to identify what really matters in their life. And therefore, we can go, okay, we've got all of the clutter out of your head. Now it's time for clarity on how to get there, what to do next.
I love what you said just before, and I wrote down, you said protect that when it came to that magic time. How are you actually going to protecting that?
Okay, so first of all, you have to find out, what it is and where it is and what time of day and what you should be doing. And so I have this a couple of nice little tools for people to download and use at craigballantyne.com/free gift. You can get the time journal. You go through the time journal and you just identify, oh my goodness, this, every day at 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm training clients, I am the most creative and productive. I just wish I had this time for me. And I noticed that when I was a trainer, and I was like, okay, what the heck am I going to do? Because this is like prime time for clients. And then I realized, like, hey, you know what? When a client moves away or a client, goes to another trainer, I'm not going to replace them if it's in the morning. And the next thing you know, I carved out one morning per week where I could start working on my online business for like 3 hours straight during my magic time. And I just made incredible breakthroughs and progress when I had those batched hours together rather than trying to do it in the slivers of time. And so then, the next thing, it was Thursday morning first, and then I was able to get Tuesday morning, and then eventually work back to getting Friday morning as well, and Wednesday morning, and then I was out all the mornings, and I had my magic hours blocked off. Wouldn't take any new clients, don't take any phone calls, don't check email. The only thing you're allowed to do during your magic time is work in your zone of genius. And I can't remember whose phrase that is. It might be Dan Sullivan's, it might be Gay Hendricks. I think it's Gay Hendricks, and Dan Sullivan's is unique ability. But you need to find out what you're best at, your most valuable skill, and do it in that right time where you get the most out of it. And that's how you make the big breakthroughs and you get the exponential results in your business.
I think this is so important because you said we have so much opportunity. There's so many things that we could be doing to grow our businesses. It's expanding every day, and especially if we just think about social media. Which platform are we going to use? And people are trying to use all of them at the same time. We'll start with one. I remember you saying something, and this was quite some time, something that you wrote, and it was pick one medium in which you're going to want to connect with people and just master that. And for me, that was video. I was like, okay, I've done a bit of work in front of the camera before. I feel good with this. I obviously need to practice on this, and you just got to go all in. Like at the moment, I'm actually put myself under a 120-day challenge where I want to produce one video every day for 120 days. And then at the end, I will allow myself to look at the analytics, look at what was good, what was not good, and then kind of replan from there. And I think this is something that I really took from you, because when I first did it was writing. And that's how I actually got so much of the online programs written, and all the content that initially got my name out to that online world was by writing. And I really appreciate you saying that, because I would have tried absolutely everything at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I refer to it as, one bullet in your gun, and, just go all in on it, like you said. But you did a great thing. You realized what you were good at and decided, hey, I'm going to focus here first, and I'm going to, focus on getting better, but I like doing it. I'm kind of good at it now. And, Warren Buffett has this circle of competence that he talks about in his investing. And, he basically is telling you, if you want to be an investor, you need to do a couple of things. You need to focus on something you're kind of good at, and you need to focus on something that you're willing to learn about all the time. All the time. And you need to, he describes it as like he eats, sleeps, and breathes investing. I mean, that guy apparently reads 500 pages of company reports a day. And so he's just teaching that in a different way. It's finding your circle of competence. And if you're willing to get in front of the camera and, do a video a day for 120 days, then that's something that you're probably going to get really good at because you're willing to do it. And so for me, I did over 100 podcast interviews in 2016. I was interviewed that many times.
Wow.
And I was able to tell my story. I was able to time the jokes. I was able to get everything right down. And now I actually have a really great stage speech because I've told the stories so many times that I've memorized everything. I know exactly when to pause. I know how it goes. And I get paid pretty well to do those speeches now, too, in addition to getting, the word out about my book and my kit and my workshops to so many people. And every time I do a podcast, I get introduced to 2 or 3 more. Yeah. And the next thing you know, I'm booked all the time to do these shows. And it's a great way for me to do my stuff. And I like it. And so that has been a good challenge for me. And so very similar to you, I said I was going to do 100 podcasts last year, and I did it. And you said you're going to do the 120 videos, and you're going to do it, and you're going to be awesome at it. And that is how people go from, being in the top 20% to being in the top 1% of skills in the world.
I love a couple of things. Like the first thing about, especially when you talk about public speaking, because I actually said I want to do a lot more talking this year on stage, because last year I spoke at Shramko's event. I spoke at an event that was in Bangkok. I also spoke at some events in Australia as well. Really enjoyed it, and I was like, this is something I really want to sink my teeth into. But it was funny because I was actually just having a coffee with a lady that does a lot of coaching for speakers, which I actually didn't know before we sat down and started chatting. And she was saying how you need to know your stories to be able to place them in the right times and obviously have the right timings of those stories as well. So I actually really appreciate you saying that, because I kind of really sunk that thought in. Now,
it's really great. I mean, it's an art, telling your story. It's a performance, and just like doing the YouTube videos, it's performance. And you also have to do more than just do them, though. You have to have quality feedback on them. So you need to run them by an expert. You need to compare them to other experts, and you need to get someone to give you feedback. And you need to improve on that feedback and practice. So, I don't love practicing my speech, but I've put in hours and hours and hours to do it and memorize certain parts before I go on stage, and it's paid off because you do all that work and you build that foundation like an iceberg, and people only see the performance tip, but there's so much work that goes into it. But that's what stage actors do, and those are people that are highly adored and get tons of attention. So if you want to master that stuff, there's work that goes to it, but there's a huge payoff too.
Oh, absolutely. I remember I actually talked to a couple of actors, and I was like, how do you remember your lines when I was going into the speaking gigs that I had last year? And it really works, but you've got to put the effort in, because then what the beauty that I found is once you actually walk on stage, you just kind of go blank and it just comes out because the work's been done on the back end. And that was and then you kind of finish and you're like, okay, that was good. Everyone's clapping. We can walk off now.
Yeah, and that's a great way of saying it, that the work is done on the back end, that, the subconscious mind is in there. It's got all the lines, and you just need to relax and go up there and let, it kind of take over in a way. And so, that's, people just get into it. It's like when they talk about, the start of a game and the teams are kind of nervous, and then they need maybe the first quarter or the first, 10 minutes of the first half or whatever to kind of get, loosey-goosey, and then they're good to go, and then the game starts getting better, and if the team actually comes in loose and is not affected by it, they can take advantage of that and win the game, quite easily from the start. And so that is something that has a lot of parallels to athletic performance, which a lot of people listening to this will understand. Yeah. And it's being able to overcome the nerves, which also happens with practice. In most cases, you still hear some stories about actors getting very nervous when they go on stage, but I don't think all actors are very nervous when they've been doing it for 2, 5, 10 years, when it's new maybe, but, they go up, they do the job, they're professional, and it's all because they've done the work.
Now, I would love to know, Craig, what are your plans? What are your goals? What's your straight arm objective for this year, 2017? And how have you started to break this down, just so myself and the listener can see how the Yoda himself has kind of pieced his path together?
Right. So I'm going to do 40 of my Perfect Life workshops this year. And, they're anywhere from one-on-one or 5 people in the room. And so that's about 4 a month. And I'm on track for that right now. And so in order to fill those, I right now I do a print newsletter. So I have a list of about 350 high-end entrepreneurs, high-level executives that I've met over the years, and I have their addresses, and I send them the print newsletter for free. And each time I send one out, people contact me about, hey, I see you're doing these workshops. Can I get more information? And I get them on the phone, and I close them into the workshop, and it's really awesome. And so that is one of the ways I'm doing it. Also by reaching out through referrals. And so I know that if I contact 50 people a week, get 10 phone calls, then I'm going to fill up my workshops. And so I've got several planned for all the months ahead, mostly in America, some in Canada, and then one in Europe so far for the summertime when I go over there, because I go over every summer for kind of a business holiday trip. And so I'm always lining these things up and just getting more people into my world, doing more of these podcasts. And so as long as I keep hitting those numbers of 50 contacts per week and 10 phone calls, I fill it up. And I'm able to do that. And then we're also building a corporate version of it, which will then have other coaches go in and do it, because obviously the workshops are limited by my manpower and my hours. But when we get our corporate version, then it'll be something we can scale.
All right, phenomenal. Where does someone go to actually find out more about these workshops?
PerfectLifeWorkshop.com.
All right, I'm going to make sure we link to that.
Yeah, I got a little video there. People can watch it, outline of the day, and then so many of my success stories that have gone through it have videos that they're really powerful videos.
Oh, okay, perfect. We're going to make sure those are in the links in the show notes to get on through. Now, one parting piece of advice, Craig, obviously you've just dished plenty of good stuff before, but if you've got one more in the barrel, what is it?
Well, the number one thing that I screwed up was I took too long to get a coach. So, I could have hired a coach in 2003. I waited until 2006, but who knows where I'd be right now if I would have hired a coach, whether it was Tom or somebody else 3 years earlier. I'd just be so much further ahead. So if you have the money to do it, invest in a coach. The 2 things you should invest in as soon as you have the money to do it: one's a virtual assistant or a personal assistant of any kind, and 2 is a coach. And when you put those 2 things in place, you'll get rid of the low-lying stuff and you'll increase your high-level stuff. And that is how you go from being successful to very successful.
What do you think it is behind getting a coach? Not just the know-how, but what else are the other factors when having a coach is the help needed to get to the success?
You need to align your morals and ethics with the coach's morals and ethics. So, if someone can give you amazing business advice, but is a bit of a scoundrel, you don't want to be associated with them. So just make sure that you get referrals from people, from happy clients that have been clients for, 2 or 3 years, and just, read books written by the coach, watch their videos. Don't just jump into coaching with somebody right away. And then also just make sure that you're open to feedback. You can't go in closed-minded and think you know everything, because otherwise there's no point in having a coach if you're not going to take their feedback and take action on it. So make sure that you take coaching seriously as a student.
I think that's really true. And so much of the time, like we can see this in any paradigm, say in the weight loss world, if someone's cup is too full and you're trying to help them lose weight, and the information that you're giving them, the help you're giving them, it's not going in because the cup's full, it's just overflowing, then unfortunately they're not going to be able to actually use it.
Right, and that's like the entrepreneur overwhelmed with opportunity. I mean, they're already, fully and completely booked up, and then you say, oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Now you've just made it worse on them.
Yeah, so true. Okay, excellent. So, Craig, thank you so much for being here. Now, other than perfectlifeworkshop.com, you also mentioned, was it CraigBallantyne.com as well to go to?
CraigBallantyne.com/free gift.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to have both those links in there. Craig, thank you so much for taking the time out for myself and the listener. Pure wisdom. I've gotten a bunch of notes here that I'm going to be making sure I put into play. Mate, until next time.
Awesome.
Now it's time for you to get the most out of this, and this is where I can jump in and give the answers that you need. So ask your questions in the comments below so I can personally come through and answer them for you. Plus, the best discussions happen on chrisdufay.com, so click on over to get everything that I've got there for you. And did you like this episode? Because if so, click subscribe so I can send you all the episodes to come for free straight to you. And for everything that I can't fit in these episodes, plus the free guides and coaching episodes, then click on over to chrisdufay.com now. Looking forward to seeing you soon and in the success community.